And time again for touchdowns and fumbles when we take a look at how the newsmakers handled the news this past week. Here as always, Bob Reed from Veritas Communications. Bob, we're going to start with Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, who shocked us all this week by dropping out of the Conservative leadership race. How do you think he handled the announcement?
I think it was the late 20th century philosopher Kenny Rogers who said, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and Kevin O'Leary knew when to walk away. I thought the positioning around this, and you know, it's a whole separate debate. How serious was he in running for the leadership? Was it something that he was in for real, or was it something just to continue to elevate his brand? Regardless, I think this played out actually quite well for Kevin O'Leary. He was able to position his withdrawal as, he said, I'm a numbers guy. And I did the math, and while I could probably have won the leadership, the numbers look good that way, winning a majority government wasn't in the cards, and so that's the reason, that's the positioning for pulling out. So
does that pass,
do you
think, the sniff test, though? Because as you mentioned, a lot of folks are questioning his motivation. Was he ever truly in it to win it? And of course, Stephen Harper famously won a government without Quebec, so does that reasoning stand up?
Well, it's all he's got to bring to the table. I mean, we're certainly never going to hear somebody come out and say, yeah, I wasn't really serious about it, or I was doing it for other reasons. I mean, there was a lot of speculation around Donald Trump throughout his campaign about when is he going to pull the plug, because he's only doing this just to boost his profile and maybe set the scene for another TV series down the road or something. For Kevin O'Leary, I think it kept him relevant. It broadened out his CV a little bit, if you will. He's not just the reality TV guy anymore, or the business commentator. And by framing it in pragmatic terms, here's the reason why I was in, here's the reason why I'm out, I think it works for him. So I'll give it a touchdown.
Okay, let's turn to the man whose job everybody wants in the Conservative and NDP parties. That, of course, is the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Here's what he had to say earlier this week during a town hall on the legalization of marijuana when he brought up his late brother, Michel. Have a look.
When he got back home to Montreal, my dad said, okay, don't worry about it. You know, reached out to his friends in the legal community, got the best possible lawyer, and was very confident that we were going to be able to make those charges go away.
Bob, you're taking that answer.
Michel Trudeau had been found with a couple of joints in his possession after a car accident and ended up with a pot charge on it. The Prime Minister here was trying to be empathetic in talking with young people about drug charges and trying to show that I've experienced this in my own family, and we were lucky. My dad was obviously well connected and able to make a couple of phone calls and have the issue go away. Others aren't so lucky, and this can be, you know, something that they carry as a criminal record for the rest of their lives.
But didn't the conversation then become about there's two different justice systems, one for those that are connected and the rich and one for the rest of us?
This was the problem. His story didn't connect with anything. It didn't really go anywhere other than, yeah, my brother was lucky. Sucks to be people who don't enjoy those connections in their lives. There was nothing about, and so from this, I understand what a problem this can be, and as we're transitioning to legalization, we're going to bring in measures to address charges that are being laid now on the eve of it, or maybe some kind of pardon system going backwards. There was nothing put on the table that way, and even if there are legal reasons why he couldn't, he could have articulated those. But as I said, the story didn't go anywhere, it didn't connect with anything, and it left people saying, well, that's great if you're you, but we're not.
Right, so a fumble there?
Absolutely.
All right, and finally this week on Touchdowns and Fumbles, Scott Baio forced to apologize for his comments about his former Happy Days co-star, Erin Moran, and her passing. He implied that, Bob, that she died of a drug overdose when we later found out that she actually died of cancer. We have Baio's comments here. He said that, for me, you do drugs or you drink, you're going to die. I'm sorry if that's cold.
Chachi judges Joni. And very presumptively here, this was before the word had come out about that she actually succumbed to stage 4 cancer. But he went ahead and speculated anyway. And then afterwards complained. He said, look, I did a live first thing in the morning radio interview, and all they asked me about was Joni's troubled past and her struggles with alcohol and drug use. But he played right into it. He didn't have the foresight to say, you know, we don't know all the answers here. He leaned right into it, and as we saw, you know, if you drink or do drugs, you're going to die. It's as simple as that.
You know, I think what he was trying to say afterwards was that we all know that Erin Moran had a troubled past, but when I found out later on that she actually had passed of cancer, that obviously didn't apply. But he actually is pointing the finger at the media for spinning the story wrongly.
Oh, he's crying fake news and saying, you know, they're trying to misrepresent what I said and when I said it and all of that. That's all bunk. He should have known that these were the issues that were going to come up, and he should have had the foresight to realize, I better not presuppose here. I better not make assumptions, because if I'm I'm wrong, if it turns out to be something else. We don't know what we don't know is something that people have to bear in mind. Scott Baio didn't. It's a fumble.
All right, touchdowns and fumbles for another week with Bob Reed from Veritas Communications. Bob, a pleasure as always. Thanks.
Thanks.